A few weeks ago, I shared this project, and a few of you wanted more details on creating the sliced image. So let's go over slice and contour in Cricut Design Space. So here is the template I created for the mini wood palette from Dollar Tree, and I'll show you exactly how to recreate it. Now, I do have this linked in that original video, so if you want to just use the template, it is there for you. But to create this, we're going to start with a square shape and adjust the size to 3.5 inches wide by 4 inches in height, which is the size of that palette. And you can always use the toggles in the corner to do your sizing, or you can just use the measurements at the top. So let's just change the color so you can see these side by side. And because this is a precise template, I'm using the canvas position to place this exactly at the 7 for X at the top and 1 for the Y on the left side. And this will make sense in just a minute. Now I'm going to use another square to make a long, skinny rectangle shape in order to slice out the openings, so we'll need to measure this mini palette. Now I measured the spaces between the slats and the 2 slat height sizes because there are 2 different sizes on here. Now the open spaces are 3/16 of an inch, which is 0.1875 in decimal form, which is what we need for Cricut Design Space. That wider slat is 15/16 inches or 0.9375, and the thinner slat is 3/8 of an inch, which is 0.375 inches. And I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen in case you want to screenshot it and follow along with this yourself. So let's go ahead and make that long rectangle, which is the size of that opening. So 3/16 of an inch. Again, 0.1875, which is what you'll type in for the height up at the top when you're sizing your rectangle. Then once we have that size, we will need to place it where we want it sliced. And this is why we need to know the measurement of that wider slat. So using the position again, we'll place this rectangle at the 7 for the X to line up to the left side of the square. And for the Y side, since we know we're starting at the 1 inch measurement, we're going to just add the 0.9375, which is the height of that top slat, and place it at 1.9375. And I hope this is all making sense visually for you. Now, if we had placed this up at 0, you just do 0.9375 for that Y position because you're starting from 0. Now, once that is in place, we can select both of these shapes. And I'm just going to duplicate it so I have another one to do the next slice. Go ahead and select both and click slice down at the bottom. So here is our first cutout, and sometimes you'll get these little lines in Cricut Design Space if your size, like if 2 shapes are the exact same width. So I'm just gonna go back and adjust it, make it a little bit wider to correct that. You could just hide these, but that can cause slight variations down the line. So I'm just gonna go back, undo it, and widen that rectangle just slightly over the size of the original square, and then do it again. And just so you know, slice is always reversible, so you can just keep testing things out until you get what you're going for. So I don't know if you can tell on screen, but what I'm doing after adjusting the width of that rectangle is just using my keyboard to nudge it over slightly over that left hand side, because we already positioned it at the 7, so we don't want it to go up or down. So I'm just using the keyboard to nudge it over slightly after I widen it to make sure it slices over both edges of that square. Hope that makes sense. Now for the thinner slat, the next opening that we're going to slice out, we'll need to do a little bit of math. And so we need to add the height of it, that slat, plus the opening space that we just created, add those two to the measurement of that top slat in order to get the placement of the next opening. Or just go back and measure that wood palette again from the top of it, the top of that first slat, to the second opening. And my measurement is 1.5 inches. And since we're starting at that 1, again, that 1 inch from the left side, I'll slice it at the 2.5 inch point. So again, here I'm showing we need to know the distance from this top point down to the bottom of this slat, that first one, in order to place that next rectangle. And I'm going to use position again to place it exactly where I need it before selecting both shapes again and slicing. And again, I'm going to duplicate that rectangle because we'll need a couple more slices. And stick around because I'm going to show you another option using a different tool in Design Space to do this exact same thing. So now that we have that, we'll just keep repeating this for the next 2 openings, and I'm just going to speed this up so you can watch my process. And here is our little template, and we can get rid of those slices. Now here's the second option. We can go ahead, you'll still need to do some measuring, and we can go ahead and take all the measurements and go ahead and place it in whatever position you want to. You can always start at the 0, 0 mark if that's easier for you. But then we'll duplicate our rectangles once we size them, and go ahead and place them wherever your measurements end up. And I will speed this up just a little bit. Then once we have our placement, we'll go ahead and select everything together, go down to the bottom where it says combine, click combine, and then click subtract. And this will go ahead and take out all of your spaces. Now this will still show you all your squares that you cut out, and you'll still have the option to undo and adjust. It'll just have all the cutouts in the layers panel for you. So that's just another option for slicing. Let's quickly go over contour, which just means hiding any parts of a design you don't want to cut. So in that same palette coaster video, I created this design from images in Design Space, and I sliced the leaf image from the palette template and was left with these individual leaf pieces. So I'll go into the contour and you can see I would have had to transfer some very tiny pieces, one of which is right there, which can be difficult to do. So sometimes you want to just use contour to remove some little bits that you don't want to fuss with in a design. So here's that little tiny piece. And in contour, you can just click on any part of the image you want to hide. It'll show up gray, and then if you click on it, it turns white, which means it is contoured and it's hidden from your final cutout. You can also use this bar on the right side of the contour screen and just scroll to find what pieces you want to remove. And this always goes from largest to smallest, so always scroll down to the bottom to find the smallest pieces. And you can always just play around with parts of your design to see what you want it to look like when you're using contour. So you can just hide pieces, go back and show all, do whatever you like to make your design fit you. So let's do just one other example with this strawberry image. And so say you wanted to cut this out of vinyl. I don't know why it has those two little holes in the leaves, but we can just go ahead and click on the parts of the design and select anything that we don't want to include in the cutout. So let's say we wanted to take those two holes out of that leaf. And this is a 3-part design. I'm just showing you that you can also just hide layers here in the layers panel that you don't want. But we're going to go into the leaf part or the stem and just hide these 2 circles. And this already just transforms that image. Then maybe you don't want all of these little seeds showing. You can go in and hide any of those just by clicking, or you can remove them all if you wanted to put something else on the top of the strawberry, whatever you want to do. So just play around with it. Slice and contour are very easy to work with. You can customize lots of images to fit your needs. And I hope this was helpful if you are new to slicing and contouring in Cricut Design Space. Leave any questions in the comments and check out these other Cricut Basics videos next.